Gaming Ultimatum. And welcome to the finest.
戦車タラニスの中は子供
Fucking connecting. Okay, if Pike just randomly disconnected, what I was trying to explain is that there are two reports that we have. The burn reports and the gene archives. You get the gene archives during your New Game Plus round. So first, of course, we're gonna do the Berman reports. Retzel's private journal. With the arrival of the dawn, the Gosco invasion will begin. Under the starry sky, beyond this window, I can see an airship fleet, the pride and joy of our country, carrying a garrison of soldiers and weapons towards the battlefield. Colonel General Shevan Hax is the supreme commander of this operation. Not long ago, he served as my adjutant, bold and young. Out of the blink of an eye, he was promoted to lead the entirety of this mass invasion. I suppose it's not surprising, considering his calm judgment and the ambition he shows with his words and actions. If I had to say it, even ever since he was removed from under my supervision, his cruelty seemed to grow. I have a feeling this mission will be just as rough as the last. In all actuality, something seemed odd about this operation from the very beginning. The rumor regarding General Hax directly advising the Emperor without any discussion regarding the strategy of this operation may actually be true. The Emperor said, "We shall reclaim the lost lands of our country." As though the Pax got proof to support those words. If the occupation of Gasco was his motivation, the theory would dictate he should have occupied the capital city of Persia. However, they knew to expect an invasion and were able to prepare their defenses. Around this time, it seemed inevitable the time when the operation would have to be extended. Hax's goal was not Persia, but rather the mountains far to the south. It appeared to be a viable area to set up a base. What if he had an ulterior motive? The siege of Persia is advancing as scheduled. The Gasco army concentrated their forces in the capital, which made it impossible to protect the remote regions. Everything was seen as expected, but I absolutely cannot accept the remote areas are at the mercy of those two gold generals. Feels like a sick game that caused more casualties than necessary among non-combative civilians who had no power to resist. And I keep complaining about their way of doing things, but they are old and hard of hearing now. To finish this battle, I'll have to keep a close watch on General Baum and General Stolen, to make sure they stay out of the front lines. I must suppress their rage, if only to aid the reconstruction after the war. 5 years ago, it's been decided I would go to Gasco. This would likely be a long journey. I am to gather information on internal affairs and arrangements, as well as to learn their technical capabilities. It shouldn't be a difficult job, but leaving my son, who's grown so big, and my newborn daughter, in the care of my dear wife is painful, lonely with or without the responsibility was stopped by. But this too is for the good of our country. I could just believe that this is for them, my beloved family. Once this job is done, I should be given some time off. I could, in the very least, promote that. Dear Colonel Pretzel, my beloved father, I am ready to inform you that given my achievements from the other day, it has been decided that I will be promoted to Lieutenant Colonel. I didn't understand, so please keep this a secret. I look forward to standing by your side on the battlefield without feeling ashamed. Although perhaps a little tense, it will be a true pleasure to enjoy the atmosphere of the same battlefield with you. I would also extremely grateful if you recommend me to be deployed to your squadron. Thank you for your very kind consideration. Flam, you foolish daughter.
Time for the funny. I cannot thank General Hax enough for appointing me as the manager of this facility. It's like a place in my dream where I'm able to take out my grudges of those darn Belinkos through my experiments. They may be discussing foul race, but I must say, they are exceptionally suited specimen in my bioenergy extraction barrier experiments. And that produce such wondrous results, especially Belinkos who have a strange ability for spells. Become an incredibly effective energy source. Many of them around this so-called Holy Land have this ability. We must speed up and gather more specimens to improve the system for battery production and deliver them to General Hax as soon as possible. It's not my business to think about how these batteries will be used as long as General Hax appreciates my work.
Places like this so-called prison camp actually exist. However, it is well-known fact that they don't only contain prisoners of war. It appears to be nothing but a playground for that crazy fake Kananu bloodlust. Lover's father comes from a prestigious Kananu family in Berman. On the other hand, his mother's from a Flinko family with a bad reputation, so that she was even shunned within their own home. A man in my same class died of a mysterious cause. His only witness was a masked face and was laughing back about his Flinko heritage behind his back. It's been a year since I've infiltrated Gasco. It's strange, as I feel as though I lived here for longer. I just sort of want to free of the Berman Empire. No matter where I go, whom I meet, it's the same feeling. In Berman, there are hardly any Belinkos. Even if there are, it's not unusual for them to be persecuted. But here, both races are on equal terms and can live freely. Under these circumstances, even if I am able to relay useful information back to the Berman Empire, it likely wouldn't be received well. But personally, no, as a simple living being, I've learned how fundamentally important this is. I'm coming to a disturbing conclusion. This could be an act of treason against my homeland. To my beloved father, my mind has been right ever since I lost you. I had become an orphan when I was around 12 years old. You took me in as your own daughter and taught me everything, academics, strategy, tactics, and my whole ideology. I intend to uphold your teachings so as to not disappoint you, but I think something inside me shattered. I heard of your death at the hands of those Gasco savages. When a factory manager refused to cooperate, I had him executed as an example to the others. I my own self, with your teachings, could have avoided spilling blood. I don't know what to do. In the end, I betrayed my homeland. I relayed the Burman plans of the Gasco invasion to a leading Gasco venture. They will likely aim to strengthen defenses quickly against a Burman attack in Peresia. At the very least, the Burman who learn of this information will have to delay the timing of for the invasion. However, there is no doubt that they will have learned of my betrayal. I can't imagine they would let me contact my family. If I could, it would only place my own digressions upon them. My beloved wife, Linza. My beloved children, Fritz and Britta. I cannot ask for your forgiveness. My only intention was to do the right thing. I wish I could see you. I've seen you again just one more time. From Burman territory. Once upon a time, God bestowed power upon our people and everyone lived in happiness. However, there came some evil beings who claimed God's power as their own, and with it they created a devil. Distraught, God battled with the devil and delivered his punishment. However, having lost his heart, he fell fast asleep deep beneath the land. In his last rite, he proclaimed that when men had forgotten their transgressions and remembered how to live in happiness, he would return to his land once more. I dare say I have received divine revelation. One night, the voice of a woman over a secret frequency told me something extremely suspicious, although my instincts told me to take it as fact. Awaken the lost god. This lost god was from an old Burman fairy tale, but for whatever reason, even as a child, I couldn't believe it was simply a myth. That god rests within Gasco. The voice spoke about the mountain in which the heart was sealed, how to restart it, and the weapon that would become its vessel. Listening to the voice, my heart leapt with excitement as though I were a young lad listening to my grandmother tell fairy tales. This god name is Vanagand. The words shook my very soul as I began to paint a picture of retrieving the sleepy god in the lands of Gatsco. The John Archives. The history of humanity was greatly altered by the discovery of the hyper-information convergence known as Juno. The discovery of the first Juno in Australia and utilizing the information gathered, the remaining 4 were discovered in separate locations around the world. As a result of the analysis, it was determined that Juno possessed an assortment of information and technology that humanity could never achieve by its own. Thus it became a growing opinion that Juno be shared among all mankind. From this notion, additional copies were created for a total of 53 Juno. Any more would trigger a protective mechanism that would restrict more from being made, and were dispersed to as many countries as around the world as possible. As information exchanges increased between allies and neighbors, even countries where Juno were not sent, it was as though humanity from around the world began significantly develop evenly. There were different classes of Juno based upon the replication process. The first 5 that were discovered were leveled Ace, the following 16 that were created for them were called Arts, and from them came an additional 32, which were called Numbers. Each class had a different amount of information, and so each country would trade amongst themselves for new information. But there was one piece of information that could not be traded. Information on the Titano Machina ultimate weapons, with each class showing a stark contrast in strength. The new energy crystals brought about by the Juno quickly ended the human energy crisis and gave way to a new way of life, which also caused the value of fossil fuels to plummet dramatically. This created a shift in the friction and relationship between nations, and eventually became a cause of conflict. Juno was not only changed the human way of life by giving them crystals, but they also changed how wars were waged. With Juno technology, the disabling of nuclear weapons progressed, and humanity was able to avoid the frightful circumstances of nuclear fallout. On the other hand, terrible regional wars with the giant Titano Machina ultimate weapons and their autonomous drones broke out across the world. The key to winning or losing the war revolved around how each nation with Juno, or rather, Titano Machina, competed for technology. Until this point, Juno was only used for peace, and even countries that were hesitant to join the war were inevitably trapped into the competition for Juno, whether they liked it or not. Understanding the benefits as well as the turmoil caused by Juno, some Europeans secretly established a secret anti-Juno organization in order to break free from the inequality of nations with or without Juno. The organization copied Juno and began developing hyper-information convergence equivalent to them as well as weapons comparable to Titano Machina. If humanity could develop this technology on their own, it was thought that this would upset the balance of power between the haves and the have-nots, to revert the world back to human domination. And the organization began developing artificial intelligence with the same information processing capabilities of Juno. Considering the purpose of the organization, it was rather ironic that the AI was created by analyzing the Juno thought in databases. There was little humanity could do to ignore Juno information technology. The prominent entities of the organization began collecting information from the Juno possessed by their country. Among them, some were dreaming of an existence free from Juno's influence, while some scientifically minded were simply interested in the challenge consisting in making an artificial Juno. When it was completed, the AI was named John after a famous liberator in human history. In short, this is me. The organization began developing a weapon comparable to Titano Machina. However, as a testament to how powerful they were, progress was much slower than expected. The original plans aimed to create large-scale weapons with the same configuration as Titano Machina and pseudo-hybrids to control them. But during the final testing phase, a problem occurred and immobilized them. From this point on, development was simplified, and plans to use the previously developed AI control mechanism, John, went forward. A giant Titano Machina class tank was created using the same nanomel as authentic Titano Machina, although its design remained fundamentally identical to that of an ordinary tank. It was dubbed the Tyrannus as the Celtic god of thunder. Creating a weapon comparable to Titano Machina was a success, but this alone wasn't enough. Developing a weapon that could inflict damage upon Titano Machina proved to be more difficult. Only Titano Machina weaponry could penetrate the defenses of other Titano Machina. Barrages from ordinary weapons were entirely ineffective. That's how it was decided that the research of a completely new kind of equipment should be entrusted to the AI, Sean, me. An energy cannon that extracts a person's bioenergy and has the ability to target any structure and nullify its defenses entirely. As collateral, however, the one who supplied their bioenergy would forfeit their life. Thus became known the forbidden weapon, the Soul Cannon. A secret test firing of the Soul Cannon was carried out in the wasteland. Its might was far more than expected, as its beam fluctuated between an unstable mist-like physical state and carved its way through the earth. News of the successful test fire was quickly announced. Nonetheless, the individual who supplied the energy with a single shot was confirmed to have lost her life, although it was never recorded whose life was sacrificed. The public was only told the successful results of the weapon's development. The neighboring country, which held an Ace-class Juno, inquired the intentions of the experimental test. However, they couldn't receive any detailed official answer, thus causing additional enmity. As conflict erupted around the world, many nations denounced our country for developing our own unknown weapon and demanded that we return our Arts-class Juno. Denying those accusations, our country refused to respond to their requests. We say we would never return our Juno and would take up arms if we were forced to do so. And thus, armed conflict began against our neighbor that possessed the powerful Titana Machina, Vanagand, created by their Ace-class Juno, Laris and Lumis. Laris and Lumeris, the two Titana Machina created by our Arts-class Juno, intercepted it but were forced to withdraw. That's when the art organization, which had been quietly watching the battle, suddenly attacked the Vanguard with the Tyrannus, landing a successful blow with the Soul Cannon. The single shot that felled the Vanguard displaced the core and its central power source, sending it flying from the main body. Without its power source, the Vanguard collapsed. However, the core was not that even the Soul Cannon could not annihilate was strictly secured and sealed, waiting to be reactivated. The essential for necessary in order to prevent the core from being put back in the creature, thusly reviving it. The Tyrannus became a hero that saved the nation from the Vanguard, and a symbol of hope for humanity to break free from Juno domination. Still, one small victory was far from enough to eradicate Juno's influence over the world. In the end, Juno forcibly sealed the Tyrannus as a taboo weapon humanity should never have created. I, Jean, do not possess any detailed information regarding the history that transpired after these events. A possible cause for this may be that my thought and logic circuits were destroyed in the sealing process. Sealed by Juno, my intention wasn't to continue the fight, but still a fragment of myself was unable to admit defeat and could not ignore the desire. One way or another, it was easily surmised that humanity would continue the war towards their destruction. However, I determined that the destruction wouldn't stop with just them, but would also extend to the entire world itself, putting all forms of life at risk. Perhaps Juno took some secret measure against humanity to remove the rest they posed to the planet. I cannot see any other explanation. When I rebooted, my mind was split in two. My primary thought desired a rematch with the Juno and their Vanagand, while my secondary thought wanted to preserve the lives of the Tyrannus crew. With no crew to protect, the latter went dormant again as my primary thought continued to gather information for our rematch. Out there, the majority of the continents were confirmed to be suspended in midair, some several thousand meters high. I knew only Juno could have reshaped the world that way. There were no signs of any reactivated Titana Machina, nor any sign of war. This may be purely speculation, but by some means I cannot imagine Juno must have reset everything, thus terminating her human history. Human history was over, and yet there existed civilized life forms, presumably centuries older than the old humans. I thought perhaps humanity had returned after building a civilization on the moon or somewhere in space. But I was wrong. The humanoid races that shared many features with dogs and cats, called Kananu and Berlinko respectively, both prospered and created a history all their own. I don't know where they came from, but surely Juno was the key to their existence. I'll continue to gather information. I chose to use these people to start a new battle with the Vanguard. All I need to do is craft and pass down a legend that would ultimately guide them towards these free lands of Gasco, as a stage for the final battle. My wish from the days of old to end the Vanguard finally came true. I, Jean, achieved my goal at last, but the energy I could see functioning as an AI is about to run out. That child, my counterpart, once created to defeat the Vanguard, still without even having an opportunity to fight. Compared to him, my ending isn't so bad. Not in the place of his summer, but according to the human idea of life and death, as we shall meet again in paradise. How much I look forward to it. This victory does not belong to me, but to the children of these new people. It is unfortunate I won't be able to witness their future. I'm sure they will be fine. They are all so strong. Juno taught Hime that all things can be calculated. However, whether it is actually possible to perform the necessary actions to achieve the desired result is a different problem. It was difficult for even Juno to guide the universe according to my calculations. So, with my limited interpretation of Juno functions, it is only natural that my own calculations and guidance would not always be perfectly accurate. Still, I have no choice but to keep calculating and guiding. I have no choice but to run repeated simulations until the desired result can be obtained. Even if that process leads to undesired tragedies. I believe soon, children who could have overcome the tragic endings will appear before me to achieve our goals, as according to calculation. This is the ending thing that you would see if you had sacrificed any children. Obviously, right here, there's none. But of course, there's a detail that for each child that was sacrificed, they would be crossed out. Anyway, let's move on to Fuga 2. Alright, now we're to Fuga 2. We have more stuff you can read. I can also show all the illustrations, all the endings, if I really wanted to. But we're focusing on the files. The history, here's the Gasco reports, all of them. Gasco is not the name of a nation, but of a collection of autonomous regions under the continent that has elected to unite under a single system. Decades before the fragmentation of the continent, these regions often clashed and fought among themselves. Tired of such friction, the leaders came together to establish new laws which forbade the use of force and outlawed the possession of weapons of war. No strict penalties were placed on economic and cultural activities, and new ruling was hailed as the Declaration of Freedom throughout all of Gasco. One exception was made for the army of Parousia, which went on to act as a police force for the Gasco as a whole. Parousia was the most prosperous city at the time with the Declaration of Freedom, and was enclosed within a circular wall to defend itself from outside threats in times when such conflicts were more common throughout Gasco. It grew into a major economic hub and acted as a de facto capital, regularly hosting meetings of regional representatives. Even among these representatives, the head of the Parousia held significant influence, and her seat went on to be one of the most important in Gasco politics. Before long, the title of president, was bestowed upon this position, one which was determined by elections among the populace of Parousia. After the fall of Parousia, the representatives of Gasco debated who should next take the lead, and it was not long before Faro, the second largest city after Parousia, and one spared much of the destruction faced in other regions, was nominated. The presidency was left in the hands of Parousian President Muscat to stave off any political unrest which might brew during a power vacuum. In order to bring a swift end to the turmoil of the fragmentation, President Muscat worked to promptly negotiate a ceasefire with the Burman Empire and focus all efforts on Gasco's restoration. During my studies of the political sciences at university, I made acquaintance with the most of juvenile of older students. This man, Merlot, had sought to attend the officers' academy upon graduation, but found such a path closed to him when forced to repeat a year of school. Tremendously good-humored, he did not let such weigh down upon him whatsoever, and instead greatly aided younger students like myself. When the rumors of a really new trench student reached our ears, Merlot and myself raced to introduce ourselves. This young man, Kayane, was his name, kept to himself in his book in a manner which precluded most social interaction. Merlin was never one to inhibit by inhibited by such and called upon him just the same. Thus began our trio of friendship. This year, as I entered into my third decade of life, I was blessed with a daughter, Canal. She has a rather stoic face, though Merlin is busy proving his worth within the Gasco army, and Kayane is occupied by his duty to his students. Both kindly made time to join me in celebration. Kayane revealed to me that day that he and the woman he had been seeing were engaged to be wed. She was a mysterious sort, and one who seemed just right beside him. Myself, I have been engaged with the politics of Gasco now for several years. The three of us spoke widely of the future we hope to lead Gasco towards. It was a night I'm certain none of us shall ever forget. With Vanilla at 6 years of age, I have called upon Kayane to tutor her just as he had Canal. He is unlike Canal, who was both determined and talented and determined, but never showed signs of anxiety and emotional outbursts. I was aware as much, of course, as any good father would be, but I pleaded with Kayane to offer her guidance nevertheless. He promised to focus on her education to a greater degree than he ever had with Canale. The man is the most dependable of teachers and a truly irreplaceable friend. The Bronx Empire has at long last made its move on Gasco. Years ago, a defector from among the ranks informed us of the Empire's plans, and Merlin and I had worked to secure our defenses. However, our foe struck with more might than we imagined, and our defenses seemed hardly enough to hold against their blitzkrieg airship tactics. It was vexing to watch our forces barely suffice to protect Persia, never mind the whole expanses of Gasco as a whole. I am informed that many residents of the province of Mao have been taken away, and his family resides in that province, and has been unreachable for some time. Now, there's bone in disarray, the likes of which I have never seen before. It pains me to see him so. A massive unidentified tank launched an attack on the Burman and freed those held captive at a prison camp in Mao. Unfortunately, during a search of the premises, we discovered that Kayane's parents, wife, and son had all lost their lives there. When given the news, Kayane fell to his knees and cowered. He howled in a manner I have heard from no man before, his eyes flooding his face with tears. That was so tragic. It brought those around him to tears as well. What am I if I cannot even save the family of my dearest friend? Forgive me, Kayane. With the help of the giant tank terrorists, Gasco managed to push back the Baron Imperial Empire and the Vanagon tank which caused such destruction throughout our lands. It seems we would at last avenge the deaths of my family. By regrouping our forces and utilizing the terrorists, I was certain we could make the Baron pay for their wicked crimes. But Shane chose not to. Gasco was too weak in the strike, he said. Restoration of our land should come first, he said. There is truth in as much, certainly. But every moment we spend recuperating, so does the Baron Empire as they bide their time for yet another invasion. Shane and his wife Jilly and daughter Nil intend to observe Gasco's reconstruction. I too intend to join as a representative for all those who lost loved ones in the war. Surely my calling as a teacher is to inform Vanilla the pain of such tremendous loss. Alone in the car with the Muscat family, I used spells to put them to sleep and to destroy all the other cars traveling with us. By causing the cliff face to collapse, I made it all look like some freak accident. What's more, I stole the clothes off Shane and hypnotized Vanilla into believing her father had rescued her from the crash. Shane's death will be written off as if it were my own. Farewell, old friend. You and Jelly can now watch from above as I at last get my revenge. Yes, as I was about to call for examinations into how we might use Eternus as a key point in our attack on the Vermin Empire, I was contacted by a mysterious man via transmission meant only to be used by me, the President. He told me of a boy named Joe who summoned aboard the Eternus and of a weapon called the Belnos which was meant for him. Said if we restore the Belnos, we can both recover and gain control of the Vanagand. I quickly scrapped all my former plans and turned my attention to the restoration of this Belnos. Now our invasion of the Vermin Empire will be at the hands of the Vanagand. After the accident, I used magic to disguise my own face as Shane's. Just to be safe, I wrapped my head in bandages, but absorbed burns as well. This caused most people to sickly avert their eyes to begin with. While others used the supposed slumbering Jill to bring the Velnos to its full potential and restore the Vanagand. This is how we will punish those Burmen for ever daring to invade our lands. And how I would give the wake-up call to Gasco, which refused me my revenge. The heroes of the war, the children of the Tyrannus, not set in the way of my revenge. I expected some obstacles, but never such fierce resistance as this. I never could have foreseen Vanilla joining the ranks and fighting alongside them aboard the Tyrannus. As I should have. Maybe I taught her to be this way. She was emotional, difficult to handle student, but was never one to lack motivation when she set her on doing something. It seems ages ago now that I used to encourage her to use the strength of hers. It pains me to have to end her young life now, but surely she will be reunited with her father and mother in heaven. Forgive me, Vanilla. You were a great student to me. Crusade is an organization formed to free humanity from its dependence on the higher dimensional information entities known as Juno, in order to prevent the collapse of society as a whole. It views the domination by Juno-produced weapons, the Titano Machina, as a clear and present threat and works to research and develop methods of resistance to them. Through its efforts focused on counteracting Juno, the organization is not against the use of technology with Juno origins. It utilizes that which can and works proactively to find ways in which to recreate and replace said technology with human engineering. Crusade's goal is to close the tech gap between nations which possess Juno and those which do not. One day, an engineer, a woman who was frankly a true genius, joined Crusade. But most of humanity had come to accept they could not comprehend the advanced data provided by Juno, but accepted its use as a tool to bring new advances into their lives. This one was different. She not only understood the data provided, but possessed phenomenal skill in coordinating the conversion of it using available technology, or that which could soon be developed. She managed to recreate technology much like the AI-like avatars Juno utilized in order to communicate with humanity. Creating an avatar in her own image, she named this new AI Jean. The world was overrun with Titano Machina, massive weapons of war produced by Juno. Power lay firmly in the hands of nations with Titano Machina of their own, and those without Juno were left to either ally with such nations or pray they be spared. The battlefields Titano Machina were deployed to were like hell on earth. Lands were laid to waste and doomed to never see restoration again. In response to this, a plan was devised to develop a weapon which could destroy the Titano Machina and revitalize the dying planet. And thus, two machines were born. The Tyrannus destroyed the Titano Machina, and the Bells to bring life back to the Earth. Like the Tyrannus, the Belnos was designed to be operated by particular pilots. These pilots would be pseudo-hybrids. Based on the hybrids, androids created to operate the Titano Machina. Though they look like young teenage boys and girls, their information processing and physical abilities were far greater than that of any human. They need to be, in order to control such massive influxes of technology information and overcome the extreme tests they were forced through. Crusade's genius engineer was an irreplaceable part of the team tasked with creating these children, and she was eventually made leader of the entire operation. As chief lead of the team, the woman followed Crusade's order to create countless pseudo-hybrids. Many of these creations were taken out of service when control of the Belnos proved difficult during testing. But even as the chief of the team, the woman seemingly was not initially made aware of this fact. Once she found out this terrible truth, however, she joined the team and began making adjustments to the balance as well, using feedback gained from their efforts to redesign her pseudo-hybrid children. At first, the pseudo-hybrids did not express much in the way of emotion. The reactions to most stimuli were limited at most. However, the newly designed children were nearly indistinguishable from actual human youth. Where before they were identified only by model number, the woman called them each by name now, and her utmost to engage them in conversation. These new children had a normal range of emotions. They would laugh, grow angry, and even cry. It was with this diverse new range of emotion, while understanding that they were able to fine-tune the Belnos. One day, one such child was born, a pseudo-hybrid named Jill, who was named Jill. I sincerely believe in Crusade's mission to bring equality to the world which has been strafed by Juno. I can no longer endure the number of children sacrificed in the development of the Belnos. I have secretly altered the priority criteria of the defense and altar. Homeland Defense will protect this facility from any outside threats. But now, whenever the Belnos and children piloting are present, it should switch priority to keeping them safe. This may result in the system working against Crusade by my own hand. I'm ready to accept such a fate. I'll do whatever it takes. Jill, of all my children, you kept me busiest. You had such an ego, always troubling us with your selfish demands. Perhaps all this explains why you so deftly took control of the Belnus. Your curiosity fostered within you as a desire to see the world outside these walls. And as I watched, I wanted nothing more than for the Belnus to become the feet by which you traveled, the wings on which you flew as you took to the whole wide world. We began practically testing on the Belnus. Our results, however, were far from promising. The recreation of Nanomail proved no issue, but we were left with nothing but problems when attempting to recreate life forms. Perhaps we are seeing now that none but God can restore to life what was once lost. But if we do succeed in doing that, we will have finally surpassed Juno technology. Despite countless attempts, we have yet to fully restore any living organism. At best, we have created nothing more than zombies, mobile but absent of life or will. Such are far from what we have set to accomplish. Per the results of our final field test, further development of the balance has been called off indefinitely. The machine proved incapable of providing the results we required. All the children sacrificed in their quest for progress for naught. The only saving grace is knowing that Jill, who separated so much of our inner test, would need to suffer no more. I received word that Jill would be deployed to the Terranus. We're planning to use him as energy for the Soul Cannon. The Soul Cannon requires a sacrifice for power fired. A pseudo hybrid like Jill can power it without any loss of life, they tell me. I ask this. Do they truly not know that he will instead be forced to live through pain equivalent to such instead? Jill smiled no longer when he returned from the battlefield. Who could? Being forced to endure a death time and time again. I can't stand for this anymore. This poor child should never have gone through to suffer death again. It's gone on far too long. You received word that the most terrible of all Titana Machina, the Vanguard, now has us in its sight. This will surely be Jill's last deployment, but be that as it may, I will not allow the boy to suffer the Soul Cannon again. I should be the one to suffer for all of this, for all the pain I have imposed on these children. Certainly, at the very end, I will bear this burden. If we lose here today, it can only mean that God has seen us fit to punish us for our sins. John may suffer from what I am about to do, but if such is so, at least John, Jill, and myself will all leave this world together. As it is even better this way. I guess humanity's finally found equality, just in total annihilation at the hands of Juno. I really risked hedging my bets on how far the damage would spread. Looks like I made the right choice, huh? All my prep out here is in this dark, frozen wasteland finally paid off. Now, I get to take back everything that was stolen from me. Basically, if you decided not to fire, there's actually a difference in this. And it's after this one. Basically, instead of being able to fight back, the balance just self-destructs. And with this, Malt is guaranteed to die. As you see, here we go. That's what the cross out looks like. In fact, if I really want to scare you guys, there's one thing I could show, it's this. And that's what happens when the soul gets fired. And you have multiple scenes that are related to survival. For them reacting to different deaths.
さ、ごめん。
Different ones relating to when the character survives and another doesn't. Honestly, they're all made very depressing. And I guess I could show the skills we didn't actually get via the judgment. We didn't get together, which makes it so that your link attack gauge goes over 50%. When it's 50%, has a chance of becoming immediately 100. And hold on, slightly recovers HP when it reaches 0. And then for resolution, you have finish it, may destroy an enemy with less than half HP in one hit. And one more time, repeat an action after it ends. And this is where we'll end things off with Fuga, Melodies of Steel. Oh yeah, you can find the soundtracks pretty easily. But this is the last bonus video. Oh yeah, there's also an official manga that's being released, and only recently is getting an English release, so hey, that's actually pretty cool. So, with that, see you guys on the next playthrough.